You can set it right here. Otherwise, I'm getting inside of that bubble of the leash right there, right? Okay. So listen, when I compare equipment and training techniques, I don't mention trainers by name. I don't want to badmouth trainers, but I think it's important that I understand what you worked on, what he worked on, maybe in your absence because you did board and train,
Yes.
how it translated to your skill level to maintain it, so I can get an idea of how what we teach could be different. Okay. All right. So he described this to you as what exactly?
He didn't really say anything about that.
Okay.
He had to switch the collars.
Yeah.
I had a more comfortable playing, dog. Hey. Shh. Hey. See, that makes me nervous, but Michael doesn't think that's aggression at all.
Do you want him to act like that?
Hell no.
Is it embarrassing?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. This is what I'll tell you. Okay. This is an agitation collar. All right. This is what I taught my 2 working dogs, along with dozens of others in local and even other state agencies, to bite people on purpose with. All right. Equipment is important. All right. Any audible cue that you give will always be overridden by physical sensation. Okay? This physical sensation of this collar, back him up a little bit. It's easier for me to back up, right?
Yeah.
Because he's pulling it. However, if I give space when he comes charging at me, he wins.
Yeah.
It's not about how hard you pull, but psychologically he can't charge at me and get away with it. Okay? All right. Listen, this is to spread the force across the neck so that you don't provide a lot of trauma to the trachea, okay? This allows the dog to jump and to lunge. You attach a leash to it. There's absolutely no way that you can say no, all right? Yes, focus is important, maintaining eye contact with the dog and building trust and that relationship. But you're struggling, right? Again, I don't mention names, but I think that the style of training that you had worked with, did you ever hear the word punishment in a scientific term used just to discourage behavior? How did he say he was going to discourage behavior? Or your other trainers, let's say. Because you had a few, right?
Yeah, there are a few that didn't
Okay.
believe in punishment.
Yeah. So punishment is to discourage behavior, that's it.
Yeah.
Operant conditioning is not new. It's been around nearly 100 years. It involves punishment and it involves reinforcement. Reinforcement is to encourage, punishment is to discourage. All right, to get really scientific, you can apply punishment, and that's your positive punishment. That's an added stimulus that is uncomfortable. All right? Prong collars should make a behavior uncomfortable. There is some association to the person holding the leash because the leash is attached to the collar's on the dog. Okay? So, in order to reinforce good behavior on a prong collar, the leash needs to be loose. But it's a very clear yes and no. Okay? This only says yes, and when you pull on it, it only says hell yes. That's how we taught dogs to bite on purpose, all right? We play a game of tease, whether it was with a ball or a tug toy, and as they would lunge for it, we would pull backwards. And they would dig in and push harder, propelling themselves forward because we pulled back and we played this game back and forth until they were absolutely at the red line, and then we let them go forward to charge and to bite. And every time that we did that and we would intensify behavior more and more and more and more, we were building aggression. Okay? Defense is sitting still barking and warning, don't come any closer, don't come any closer. The lunge forward, that's aggression. It absolutely is aggression. If you've taught it on purpose, I think you can identify it easily, because I'm identifying what I want the dog to do. Well, in your case, you don't want the dog to act like this. So you have to reverse some of the techniques. You absolutely can do it with equipment. Equipment's important. If this is up against the dog's neck and it's saying yes and hell yes, you have to punish to discourage. We're not out here making up new terms. It's punishment to discourage. That's it. All right, so what's really important is not to lose the bond with your dog when you use punishment. All right? Punishment is also taking something away that they like, but it can be adding something that's uncomfortable. That prong collar that sits real low, you went back to it from a trainer that you started with a while ago?
Well, I just took it out of the bag when...
Yeah, when I told you, please stop using this. Yeah. There's a time and place for this, okay? If you can connect your dog to this, and your dog has very predictable behavior, and you can look at your dog and say, no. And you don't need to use a physical sensation, because they've been conditioned that the word no, they should anticipate a physical sensation that's uncomfortable afterwards. So that physical sensation needs to, in their mind, be something that they don't want to repeat. So the behavior is not repeated. See what I mean?
Yes.
Okay. If the physical sensation is yes, 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 and you're energizing and charging your dog, then every time you pull on this and you say no, you're teaching the dog to bite on no. Okay? So that audible cue and then physical sensation. So we want to change the physical sensation to be uncomfortable so that there's consequence, right? No, don't do that. If you repeat that behavior, that physical sensation is repeated. That's it. Now, remote collars. What do you know about remote collars? Nothing. When we talked on the phone, I'm sure I gave you the same speech I give everybody, which is we call them remote collars. They're called e-collars, they're called shock collars, they're called a lot of different things. But remote collar is what we stick with because you can remotely give punishment. You just push the button, okay? But you have to teach the dog what to do and a good behavior choice in order for that stimulation to turn off. So you can release the button, okay? What we say is on until completion or changing commands. And that's getting ahead into the next lesson where we start remote collar. But if you're pulling on the leash that has a prong collar on it and it's uncomfortable, all right, it should remain uncomfortable until you get true change in behavior. That's a little bit big. We'll get you fitted with one that's really proper, and it should be uncomfortable. That's it. Like, I'm not going to sugarcoat punishment. Applied punishment is to be uncomfortable because you don't want that behavior to continue. The whole problem is equipment that provides intensifying sensation to it. It's just heightening your problem. It's making things worse. And I wanted to catch the very beginning of you walking up because I think it's important. He's calmed down now.
Yeah.
Good morning. Pretty typical. Pretty typical. We'll make our way on over here. But you can't wait for him to calm down with every person that you meet, right? So tell me about at the house. Apartment, home, condos, you get a lot of people around, other dogs around.
We live in an apartment complex.
Okay.
So he's fine in the apartment, but as soon as I take him outside, it's like he's looking to see.
Yeah, well, without a yard, he has to walk, right? On a leash, yep.
I mean, he's looking to see if there's another, like it's almost like he's looking for a fight.
Yep. And
that's how, when you see other dogs walk up, that's how he is. He tries to lunge, he barks at people in the car at a stoplight. He's barking at people walking by and going crazy if he sees another dog jumping around in the car.
So in an effort to stop it, you pull on this, and you actually are saying yes. And it's absolutely because of sensation, okay? How long has it been since you did a board and train?
It's been a couple of months.
Okay. Do you feel like, regardless of who it was, do you feel like you were able to grasp the concepts that were taught, to do it on your own once you finished the board and train and he came home?
Yeah, he didn't teach me anything. He didn't. It just seemed like he was frustrated. When he dropped him off in my apartment, he was just like, I just had the feeling he was just like, just take your dog back, get him on medication.
How long was he there?
Almost 3 weeks.
Okay.
Because he said he was going to take him downtown and get him used to people, and he never even brought him anywhere.
That was my next question, is how much exposure did he have to real triggers, right? These are real triggers here. I don't think it is completely out of the realm of possibility that he should be expected to behave. I mean, they're 50 feet away and they're just passing in a park.
Yeah.
None of these dogs are provoking him at all.
Yeah.
We like to start nice and easy and with minimal distraction. This is minimal distraction, aside from being at the house. But a dog like yours,
Stop.
and like almost right on cue, a dog like yours that's defensive, they're just somebody walking.
Yeah.
I mean, for Pete's sake, knock it off.
Yeah.
But entering into your dog's home would put him on defense real quickly.
Yeah.
So this is a neutral location, and we still got problems. Okay. Okay. So as far as you know, what was taught never really got translated back to you so that you could apply it yourself.
Like the second week, he had me drive down there to see how he was doing, and we just like walked around where he works in his yard. We just walked around in the back, just really didn't show me much. And then when I left, we were in the office for a while, and he sent me a video of how he...
Let's walk him this way just a sec. I'm listening to you. Watch those ants.
...his crate, and he was going crazy, smelling my scent in the office.
Okay, see if we can keep him facing this way. The purpose behind that is I want to see how much he protects himself and his back end. Okay, because he's vulnerable when he can't see something behind him. And just while we talk, it'll make a difference, right? Go ahead. So you met in the office, and a lot of anxiety from separation too?
He was in a crate, and then he sent me a video after I left that he let him loose, and he was crazy, just smelling my scent everywhere, and my son was with me, and he totally ignored the chair that my son was sitting at, and he was all over the chair where I was at, and he didn't even see me when I was there at that time.
Mm-hmm.
It was
and so the final suggestion was just put him on meds.
Yeah, and he said right now he's untrainable, get him on meds, and we'll continue to work. And then when I called him back, he had introduced me to that behavioral therapist, and we had group chatted with her once, and then she had sent me a video of me walking Sarge, and that was it. They never responded back.
Okay.
And I still have his crate that he wanted me to put, and then he wants it back, but it's like, okay, you blew me off, like.
Yeah. Well, besides all that, I just want to compare techniques of types of training.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure we're not repeating something that maybe didn't work.
Yeah.
Okay. I say that your dog may be unique, but the behavior's not, and I think that holds true for a lot of dogs. I mean, like, that's not unique. All the barking at people, not unique. We probably have 24 videos in this exact field with the exact same problems from dogs of all breeds and all sizes, and it's not unique. So, remote collars. The most important part of applying punishment is to not do it with conflict. Okay? So, even pushing him down. Maybe he likes that because it's interaction.
Yeah.
Okay? But If he likes it, he's going to repeat it. All right? So if you use more force or in a way it makes it uncomfortable, raising a knee or pushing really hard, there's some conflict there. Okay? But it's not punishment if he likes it.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, conversely, we have a dog in training that just doesn't like to be pet. Is completely fine just being around everybody, but when they go to pet the dog to praise for good behavior, it shies away. I said, I know that your idea is to give praise and reinforcement, but the dog doesn't like it. Just don't do that. What if you just talk sweet to the dog and it looks at you and it wants to be with you, but it just doesn't want to be pet, you know? So we're finding other means. Now, that's a dog that was trained using submission and dominance training. And so it is associating conflict and punishment. So every time they go to pet it, it shies away because it's anticipating that the person is about to dominate it. And that's a whole nother problem too. And I'm glad that this didn't occur with you, but to flip a dog on its side and pin it down and have it submit when it presents bad behavior. There's absolutely no way to avoid conflict when it's you with all that force, right? So, all right, when these dogs walk like he's already on alert, you're going to walk straight to me, okay? And turn around. Turn again. Walk this way. Okay, and stop right there. Okay, he's pushy. I mean, he's very manipulative to when he doesn't get attention. Let's bring him out of the ants. The weather's cooling, but there might still be some ants in there. Just walk him this way. Walk him this way here.
Really saw with him was walking him. See, he walks
Sure.
me, he pulls. And I mentioned to you that the other day he was pulling hard because he saw another dog that he knocked me right to the ground.
Yeah.
And he steps on me and jumps on me where he's constantly tripping me.
Yep. So just that right there, you have people and dogs in passing, okay? Were you explained any kind of technique as to what to do when you get this behavior that you don't like? I think we talked about it on the phone.
Yeah.
It's a pretty common technique for that style of training. But you mentioned, number one, using this. Was there any kind of focus exercise to get eye contact, or what was told to you that you should do to stop that behavior?
Just stop where I'm at. If I'm walking him, just stop walking, and if he looks up at me, then he knows that it's time to go. But I'll do that. He won't even make any eye contact with me. He won't look up at me at all.
Right. So we teach change in behavior through movement drills.
Yeah.
Okay? Change in direction, which is what you just did just a couple minutes ago. I said, walk him away from that. Psychologically, we're taking him out of an environment that he's defensive and becoming aggressive at. Okay?
Yeah.
Movement.
He'll do that too, and he'll go crazy.
Well, the collars are sending a sensation that isn't quite what we want. Okay, but movement drills, change in direction should equate to change in behavior. And what we want to do is we want to use certain angles so that 180-degree change in direction should equate to a 180-degree change in behavior.
Yeah.
Okay? So now, when you get to remote collar, it reduces the conflict involved in it, and your leash attached to the prong collar is going to become your steering wheel. Okay? You're going to apply stimulation until you get change in behavior, but you're going to use movement so that he can make a better decision behaviorally, so you can turn the button off. Not only that, but then the leash is loose. What we're going to work on today, number one, get him fit with a prong collar that sits high up underneath the ears and the chin. We want one that has a metal slide and the chain. That's an audible cue. Okay, every time he hears the chain run through those metal glides, he should anticipate the prong collar is about to be constricted and it becomes uncomfortable. All right? So it's going to be no, the sound of the chain, the sensation of the prong collar, and movement. Movement to change the mind and to change this intensity and to take him away from something, because people that are passing, here's another issue. People are passing by here, they got places to go. They're exercising, they're leaving. He barks at him, they keep walking, and he thinks, I got him. Look at that, scared him away. You're welcome, Mom. And you're just embarrassed by it.
Yeah.
Okay? So, during group lessons, once you get your skills down, we purposely maintain a particular position, and your dog's movement and change in behavior must occur, not the person he thinks he's scaring away. Okay? What we're going to teach you is how to apply punishment and just the word no. I mean, what you've been dealing with is ignoring behavior and waiting for a behavior change and then rewarding the behavior change after you've ignored it. Does that sound kind of like the gist of what you've been taught through a couple trainers?
Yeah.
Okay. And ignoring it has turned into what? A 2-year-old shepherd that is 90 or 100 pounds,
Yeah.
taller than you, jumping on you, barking at everybody, and just going absolutely crazy. Okay, and, you know, with structure, a set of rules add to your everyday life. All of this anxiety at home, and you mentioned stuff about just separation from him,
Yes.
you hold him accountable for his actions. And you're going to do it through a leash. We never want to just grab the chain on the prong collar. We want to use as much separation as possible. So the full length of the leash actually, okay? I don't know how much I can handle the leash today. We're going to give it a shot. I'm going to try to coach you along, just because, I mean, I don't need to go to the hospital. And, you know, I'll coach you along the best that I can. I have my dog as well, and I'll be able to show you some stuff with my dog. How we use distance when the prong collar engages. And the whole purpose of that is, imagine you have this invisible bubble around you, okay? And it is the length of the leash. But you can decide how long you want the length of the leash to be, all right? You have somebody in close proximity, you're not going to use a 6-foot leash plus the length of your arm. It's dangerous, right? But there's nobody here. We're going to let your dog actually rush to the end of the leash. The prong collar is going to engage, and coming back to you makes the prong collar comfortable again, and you're associating yourself with reinforcement, not punishment. Punishment is when you leave, and that behavior at the end of the leash is showing aggression. Come back to me, prong collar is comfortable, leash is loose, and the same applies for remote collar. Okay? Leaving your bubble here activates the collar. All right? Now, you can use much less force with the leash and a prong collar when you go to remote, and it's very adjustable. We'll go over all that, but to have the ability to say no without striking, kneeing, pushing, screaming and yelling,
Do that a lot.
done correctly, your dog should make good behavior decisions, long-lasting decisions, so that the collar doesn't turn back on, right? We show the dog what turns the collar off, and good behavioral decisions keeps the collar turned off, okay? What's important to note too is, out of 100 levels on the collar that we use, most of our dogs work between like 10 and 20.
Yeah.
It's not set in stone, but that's 10 to 20% of maximum stimulation.
Yeah.
So when you look at it in that capacity, or the way that we teach it, it's not about pulverizing your dog with pain and making it do a backflip. We're teaching the dog through movement. Come back to me, it turns off. Come back to me, it turns off. That's disengagement, right? Running towards another dog activates the collar. Coming back and being friendly and minding your own business turns it off.
Yeah.
At a 10 to 20, but maybe 30 to 40 if he doesn't quite get the message. But using 100 and making him do backflips is not how we do it, but that's probably what you have been told about how those are used, and they just are not. And then it makes you feel a little bit bad that you don't want to hurt your dog. You don't want to hear him cry out in pain. Well, it's taught wrong. You have to find somebody that has a skill set to really know how to do it and do it. And I assure you, you can build a stronger bond when the dog understands that behavior, charging at the end of the leash, comes with punishment. Coming back to you and being a good listener is reinforcement. If you're cranking the leash and pulling and pulling and pulling, or pushing the button at 100 while you're surrounded right here next to him, association of punishment. Move away from me and act inappropriately, punishment. Come to me, act properly, reinforcement. Okay? That's what you've been missing. You've been missing punishment. And I talk about it way more than I do reinforcement. Yeah. So right now, you're using reinforcement because you're just sitting there. That's it. But when you pull on the leash, that's punishment. Unless you use the wrong kind of equipment that is for reinforcing or energizing behavior. I'm glad to hear you weren't on a harness because your problems would be 10 times worse. Yeah. Okay, let's get a different prong collar on him. Get it fitted. I'm gonna let you do most of it, and turn and walk 180 degrees. We just got to go with it. There you go. Now we're removing him from that particular behavior in that environment, right? We'll get to it. It's a little bit early because he has all of that prong collar in a load-bearing position, which is low down on the neck, almost on the shoulders, okay? So it's not as uncomfortable as it could be up higher, and it should be uncomfortable. To act like that, it should be uncomfortable, but through application right through the leash. All right, let's, I'm gonna get this situated for you. Okay. Your question was, what was it again? Your question.
He just didn't seem like he changed at all. I mean, brought him back up in 3 weeks. I felt like it was a waste of my time and money having him gone for 3 weeks.
Do you feel like his behavior got worse?
I feel like it's gotten worse, yes.
Okay. He taught a lot of technique of, focus and looking into the eyes, which is great. But when you see a behavior that you don't like and you ignore it, or you pull on a collar that's designed for agitation work, right? So it's the teasing, it's the back and the forth. The dog lunges on that collar and doesn't say no, it says yes. That was new for that program, right? You'd never used one of those before.
No.
That's why it's worse. Wrong equipment, okay? And the technique behind it of ignoring bad behavior. You can't do it.